The president of DreamWorks proclaimed that after the disastrous box office run of Sinbad, The Legend of the Seven Seas. I love Jeffrey Katzenberg. His work in the animation industry, Shrek plus everything DreamWorks has given us, is legendary. But sadly, his prophecy was true, not only for hand-drawn 2D, but for the medium in general.
Is anyone here? Hello?
There's a painful predicament to that quote, one that's non-partisan, one that reflects on us all. 2D animation was on the cusp of greatness, a definitive and unique era in the 2000s, the start of a mythical timeline unlike any other. If you don't believe me, go and watch any 2D film released during the millennium. Their art style was eccentric, their stories broke the mold of tradition, and their themes were outliers to the colorful soap opera we had for decades. Then it was all shut down within a year. The story of this golden age that never was cut short not by a lack of vision, but by a collision of factors. First, corporate panic, then the technological bandwagon to 3D, and more importantly, the audience, or more specifically, the cold math of the box office. At the dawn of the 2000s, 2D animation wasn't dying, at least not yet. It was evolving into something more mature, cinematic, and per se, daring.
The outside world is a dangerous place.
In the late 90s and early 2000s, studios like DreamWorks and Disney were pushing 2D animation beyond the Broadway musical formula. Those cherry musical films were being pushed into new realms. First came DreamWorks' The Prince of Egypt in 1998, adopting an early 3D blend, but more importantly, adopting a biblical story with rigor and darkness unlike anything else. Then Road to El Dorado and Atlantis: The Lost Empire. These films moved away from the soft edges. Atlantis adopted that sharp, comic-based aesthetic of Mike Nolan.
Exactly what I wanted to hear.
While El Dorado adopted a more traditional art style, but with a buddy comedy story in Chase of Gold.
You're not a god?
These animators were pushing the boundaries of tech. The iconic 4-minute Red Sea parting scene in The Prince of Egypt took a dedicated team of 10 animators 2 full years to complete. It was a landmark mix of traditional 2D and 3D effects, crafted frame by frame. The Iron Giant also mixed in a blend of CGI into the 2D world. It was indeed a new venture.
Little, yeah.
A loose analogy for the way boundaries were being pushed, both in terms of art style and CGI, would be how Into the Spider-Verse set a new era of stylization in 2018. But the difference is, none of these 2000 films pulled in the Spider-Verse money. They weren't up against a stagnant status quo, they were up against a new technology threatening the medium itself. Then came the box office massacre. Between 2000 and 2004, the highest grossing animation films were dominated by 3D. Every single juggernaut, from Shrek to Finding Nemo and Monsters Inc., towered over the 2D slate. Even cult classics like The Emperor's New Groove and Lilo and Stitch lost out to forgotten experiments like Dinosaur.
Things like that. Eat things like us as snacks.
The numbers tell the story. First, Treasure Planet was set up to fail, with minimal marketing, only to scrape together a $109 million box office run. On the other hand, Shrek was devouring $500 million. The divide then continued. Titan AE and the Iron Giant collapsed, failing to break the $37 million and $31 million mark respectively, while Monsters Inc. soared to $562 million. Then came the film that broke the faith of DreamWorks, Sinbad, making a mere $80 million. On the side of 3D, Finding Nemo became a global phenomenon, breaking nearly $1 billion.
Here, swim in a little circle, forget to yourself.
That was the numbers game. Although these 2D films have a far better legacy than most of the experimental CGI dished out back then, the majority of them were destroyed at the box office. and that's the only metric that matters for studios. Then, almost overnight, the pens were put down. From 2000 till 2011, Disney, the name synonymous with 2D, only released 11 2D films. Only 2 were made after 2005. In comparison, they made 5 CGI in-house productions, funded 9 through Pixar, and distributed a further 3. There's nothing deep behind this trend. The audience was marveled by the rise of 3D, and that's where the money fled. And I perhaps even contributed in my early days. 2004 marked the end of 2D as a mainstream medium. DreamWorks pivoted all future projects to 3D. Disney followed suit. In 2004, they closed their famous Orlando, Florida animation studio, the birthplace of Mulan and Lilo and Stitch, laying off 250 artists. It was a total shift to CGI for films like Chicken Little. If you listen to the animators and directors who lived through this, they often speak of it as a forced migration rather than a natural evolution. Don Hahn, the producer of The Lion King and Atlantis, and John Muster, producer behind The Princess and the Frog, arguably Disney's last or penultimate 2D feature, shared similar sentiments about the death of 2D through numerous interviews. To clarify, that's not to say we lost a masterpiece generation equivalent to Pixar's peak or Disney's 90s-80s era. In fact, you can see the flaws in those films today. The truth is, many of them aren't actually that good, and I can break down their weaknesses another time. But they were beautiful, and I believe art style is part of the lifeblood of 2D. That's why I keep running back to that era just to have a taste of that eccentricity. Films like Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, Emperor's New Groove, The Triplets of Belleville, and even those in the mid-90s like Pocahontas. They were kickstarting a new era of visual identity. We might have gotten some true gems if the timeline had stayed the course. I guess now it'll only be remembered as somewhat of a lost era.